In the NBA, teammates aren't just coworkers, they're supposed to be brothers. They travel the same roads, fight through the same wars, sacrifice the same blood, sweat, and sleep. They chase a single dream, eternity carved in banners and rings. But here's the thing about brotherhood under pressure. It doesn't always hold. When millions of dollars, egos, and legacies are on the line, that bond can twist into something darker. The man you once trusted to guard your back can become the one gunning for your spot. The teammate you celebrated with last night can be the enemy you throw hands with tomorrow. And when it breaks, it's never quiet. It's punches thrown in practice. It's betrayals behind closed doors. It's guns in locker rooms. Icy stares on team flights. And championship cores torn apart from the inside out. These aren't rivalries built across the court. They're civil wars waged inside the same jersey. Men who should have lifted each other higher, instead tearing each other down. This is the dark side of NBA Brotherhood, when family turns to feud. Number 1, Draymond Green versus Jordan Poole. The Golden State Warriors had built their dynasty on trust. Steph, Clay, and Draymond weren't just teammates, they were family. 4 championships proved their bond was unshakable. But in 2022, a new star entered the picture. Jordan Poole, young, cocky, electric. Fresh off a breakout season and a $140 million contract. Poole was feeling himself, and Draymond didn't like it. At first, it was small jabs in practice, trash talk, ego battles. But the tension grew every day. Draymond, the vocal leader of the dynasty, still didn't have his extension. Poole, the flashy newcomer, strutted like he owned the gym. Brothers in arms turned into rivals in the same uniform. One October practice, it all erupted. Poole chirped, Draymond closed the distance, and then came the punch. A clean right hand dropped Poole. And when the video leaked, the entire league watched Golden State's brotherhood crumble in real time. Apologies followed. Draymond tried to repair the damage, but Poole iced him out all season, refusing to speak to the man who broke their bond. The Warriors limped through the playoffs, and by summer the message was clear. This brotherhood couldn't be saved. Poole was shipped to Washington. Family turned feud, dynasty turned fracture. Number 2. Ray Allen versus Rajon Rondo. The 2008 Boston Celtics were built on unity. Ubuntu wasn't just a slogan, it was a way of life. Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen formed the Big Three, while a young Rajon Rondo orchestrated the offense. Together, they climbed the mountain and delivered Boston its first championship in over 2 decades. But success breeds ego, and family bonds can rot from the inside. Rondo wasn't content to just pass the ball. As the years went on, he wanted more touches, more respect, more recognition. Allen, the sharpshooter who carved defenses with precision, felt Rondo was disrupting the formula that made them great. The tension boiled until teammates literally forced them to box it out. Gloves on, no more words. Swing for respect. The fight didn't solve anything. If anything, it exposed the fracture. Ray later offered to help Rondo fix his free throws, an olive branch to mend the bond. Rondo's cold stare was the answer. Brotherhood denied. By 2012, the rift was toxic. Allen believed Rondo was sabotaging him on the court, refusing to pass even when he was wide open. Free agency arrived and Ray made his choice. Less money, but a clean slate in Miami, Boston's sworn rival. In Celtic culture, that was treason. Rondo never forgave him. Garnett never spoke to him, and the brotherhood that once hoisted a banner dissolved into silence and betrayal. Number 3, Shaq versus Kobe. Few duos in NBA history ever fit together as perfectly as Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. The unstoppable force and the unrelenting obsession. One a mountain of dominance, the other a blade sharpened by fire. Together they should have ruled the league for a decade. And for a moment they did. 3 straight championships, a dynasty that felt eternal. But while the banners rose, the bond broke. At first, it was flashes of friction. Pickup games where trash talk turned into Shaq slapping Kobe. Arguments over shots, roles, and who truly carried the team. But Phil Jackson's triangle offense forced peace, and as long as they were winning, the cracks stayed hidden. Then came 2002, 3 rings in, and Shaq started to coast. He delayed surgery, came into camp out of shape, and finally said, "I got hurt on company time, so I'll heal on company time." Kobe, meanwhile, was tired of being a sidekick. He wanted to prove he could win as the alpha. The resentment hardened into open war. By 2004, it was chaos. Kobe, fighting through off-court turmoil, accused Shaq of paying women to keep quiet about affairs. Shaq blasted back, calling him selfish. The feud spilled into every interview, every headline. The Lakers still reached the finals, but collapsed to the Pistons. Jackson left, Shaq was traded, and what could have been a decade-long dynasty ended because 2 brothers chasing the same crown couldn't share it. The rings remain, the Brotherhood never healed. Number 4. Larry Johnson versus Alonzo Mourning. The Charlotte Hornets of the early 90s thought they had found their future. In 1991, they drafted Larry Johnson with the first overall pick. The next year, they landed Alonzo Mourning at number 2. On paper, it was a perfect foundation, an explosive power forward and a dominant center. 2 young stars meant to grow together. They were supposed to be Charlotte's brothers in arms. But there was only room for one king. Johnson won Rookie of the Year, became the face of the franchise, and in 1993 signed a then-record 12-year, $84 million contract. Mourning saw it as a slight. He wanted his payday, his validation, his crown. The locker room became a tug-of-war for dominance. 1 ball, 2 egos. By 1995, both were gone, traded away before their partnership could truly flourish. And instead of brotherhood, all that remained was bitterness. Every time their paths crossed afterward, it was personal. Hard fouls, mean stares, boiling resentment. The tension reached its peak in the 1998 playoffs, where Johnson's Knicks and Mourning's Heat collided. What should have been just another postseason battle exploded into chaos. The 2 squared up, fists flying, as Knicks coach Jeff Van Gundy famously clung to Mourning's leg, dragged across the floor in a desperate attempt to stop the brawl. They were drafted to build a dynasty together. Instead, they became sworn enemies, proof that sometimes the biggest battles aren't against the rival across from you, but the brother beside you. Number 5. Chris Paul versus James Harden. When Chris Paul joined the Houston Rockets in 2017, it looked like destiny. Harden had just blossomed into an MVP scorer, but Houston needed a floor general. Paul, the ultimate commander, was supposed to be that missing piece. Together, they were meant to take down the Golden State Warriors dynasty. At first, the marriage worked. The Rockets stormed to 65 wins in 2018, nearly dethroning Golden State before Paul's hamstring betrayed him in the Western Conference Finals. For a moment, it felt like brotherhood, 2 superstars, 1 mission. But success only delayed the storm. By 2019, cracks were visible. Paul demanded movement, discipline, accountability. Harden wanted freedom, isolation, and the ball in his hands every second. Practices grew tense. Harden bristled at Paul's constant demands. Paul grew frustrated at Harden's lack of effort without the ball. The silence said it all. At one point, the 2 stars went nearly 2 months without speaking to each other, despite sharing a locker room and chasing the same crown. When the Rockets fell short again against Golden State, the Brotherhood was finished. Houston chose Harden, Paul was shipped to Oklahoma City. 2 all-time greats meant to complement each other, instead ended up tearing their partnership apart. What should have been a dynasty became another cautionary tale, another brotherhood gone bad. Number 6. Chris Paul versus the Clippers. Lob City was supposed to be a Showtime revival. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan. The perfect blend of star power, highlights, and swagger. The Clippers had never mattered before, but now they were must-see TV. They were supposed to be brothers building something historic in Los Angeles. Instead, it became a running joke. Everybody hates Chris. Paul was relentless, demanding, controlling, the ultimate perfectionist. He barked at teammates, called out mistakes, and never let anyone off the hook. For Blake, who thrived on freedom and flair, it felt suffocating. For DeAndre, it felt like disrespect. To the outside world, the Clippers were high-flying and fun. Behind the scenes, they were fractured. By 2017, the relationship had collapsed into pure animosity. When Paul returned to LA with the Rockets, things boiled over in one of the strangest scenes in NBA history. After a chippy game against his old team, Paul led his Houston teammates through a secret tunnel beneath Staples Center, trying to confront his former brothers face-to-face. Security had to intervene. Police were called. It was supposed to be a dynasty built on lobs and laughs. Instead, the Lob City era became a punchline. The chemistry never clicked, the rings never came, and the Brotherhood shattered. In the end, it really was true. Everybody hates Chris. Number 7, Gilbert Arenas versus Javaris Crittenton. Some teammate beefs are about shots, money, or minutes. But the story of Gilbert Arenas and Javaris Crittenton is one of the darkest in NBA history. A brotherhood that turned into something closer to a crime drama. It started on a plane in 2009. The Wizards were playing cards and tempers flared. Crittenton lost money to Javal McGee and refused to let it go. Arenas, always the prankster, stepped in and made the argument worse. Words escalated into threats. "I'll shoot you," Crittenton snapped. Arenas laughed it off, but he didn't forget it. The next day, Arenas walked into the Wizards' locker room with 4 guns. He laid them out in front of Crittenton's stall and dared him. "Pick one," to Gilbert. It was a joke, a twisted attempt at humor. But Crittenton wasn't laughing. He pulled out his own weapon, and suddenly the Wizards' locker room looked like a standoff from a Western. Teammates scattered, coaches panicked, the NBA was thrown into chaos. The fallout was immediate. Both players were suspended for the season. Arenas never regained his star power, and Crittenton's career ended shortly after. What could have been just locker room trash talk became one of the league's ugliest scandals. 2 teammates, same jersey, but their feud pulled the trigger on both careers and erased any chance of brotherhood. Number 8, Jimmy Butler versus the Timberwolves. Jimmy Butler was built in the mold of Kobe and MJ, obsessed with effort, allergic to excuses. When he arrived in Minnesota, he wasn't just another all-star, he was the culture shock. Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins had the talent, but Butler thought they lacked the fire. To Jimmy, that was unforgivable. The breaking point came in October 2018. Practice. Butler walked into the gym already fuming over contract talks, and teammates he felt didn't care enough. So he grabbed the third stringers, the guys nobody expected to win, and challenged the starters head-on. What followed was a massacre. Jimmy dominated every possession, screaming at the top of his lungs, "You need me!" He didn't just talk to Cat and Wiggins, he barked at the GM, the coaches, the entire organization. He embarrassed the franchise in its own gym, then walked straight into an interview and told the world what happened. For Butler, it was honesty. For Minnesota, it was humiliation. The locker room was poisoned beyond repair. Within weeks, Butler demanded out, and the Wolves caved. The brotherhood that was supposed to lift Minnesota into contention crumbled into finger-pointing and resentment. Jimmy left for Philly, then Miami, where his fire became celebrated. In Minnesota, all that remained was scorched earth. Brothers? Hardly. That day proved Butler was never one of them. He was the storm that tore them apart. Number 9. Michael Jordan versus Kwame Brown. In 2001, the Washington Wizards made history by drafting Kwame Brown first overall, the first high school player ever to go number 1. To a young Brown, it was the ultimate dream. To Michael Jordan, who was then running the Wizards' front office, it was a gamble he believed he could mold. When MJ unretired later that year and became Kwame's teammate, the relationship looked like it could be big brother and little brother, a legend guiding a raw prodigy. But Jordan wasn't there to babysit. He was there to win. And when Kwame dared to talk trash during one-on-one games in training camp, Jordan flipped the switch. The mentorship ended, the torment began. Every mistake Kwame made in practice, MJ pounced on it. He called him soft, humiliated him in front of teammates, and even challenged his manhood in the press. Jordan believed he was toughening him up, breaking him down to build him stronger. But for Kwame, it shattered his confidence. His game regressed, his spirit cracked, and the once promising #1 pick never recovered. Years later, Brown admitted the scars never healed, and his grudge toward Jordan still burns. What was supposed to be a story of mentorship became one of destruction. The greatest player of all time didn't just beat opponents, he broke his own teammates. Brotherhood never had a chance. Number 10. Scottie Pippen versus Charles Barkley. When Scottie Pippen left the Bulls in 1999, he wanted two things: money and respect. After years of playing in Michael Jordan's shadow, Scottie wanted to prove he could be the alpha. Houston seemed like the perfect place. Charles Barkley was chasing his first ring. Hakeem Olajuwon still had gas left, and with Pippen on board, the Rockets looked like contenders. At first, it sounded like brotherhood. Barkley even sacrificed millions of his own salary so the team could sign Scottie. But Pippen didn't come to blend in, he came to take over. The chemistry collapsed before the season even started. Pippen wanted shots, wanted control, and wanted to prove he was the man. Barkley, never one to stay quiet, clashed with him at every turn. The Rockets stumbled, bowing out in the first round of the playoffs. Pippen led the team in shot attempts, but shot just 33% from the field. Barkley publicly blasted him for underperforming. Pippen fired back with venom. I wouldn't give Charles Barkley an apology at gunpoint. He owes me one for coming to play with his fat butt. Barkley's reply? He joked that if he had known he'd run into Scottie, he would have brought a gun himself. Two Hall of Famers, one dream, zero trust. Instead of building each other up, they tore Houston down. Brotherhood became bitterness, and another super team died before it lived. The NBA is built on banners, rings, and brotherhood. But what we've seen is the other side, the blood feuds, the betrayals, the civil wars that burned dynasties to the ground. Shaq and Kobe should have been unstoppable. Ray Allen and Rondo should have been a dynasty. Draymond and Poole were supposed to carry the torch. Instead, they turned on each other. Because this league doesn't just test your jump shot, it tests your loyalty. It puts millions of dollars on the table and asks, will you fight beside your brother or fight against him? And more often than not, brotherhood loses. Punches get thrown, friendships die, legends walk away with rings, but no family left behind. That's the tragedy. Championships hang in the rafters forever, but the scars of betrayal live longer than the banners. In the NBA, the real enemy isn't always across from you. Sometimes it's standing right next to you, wearing the same jersey, calling himself your brother until the day he doesn't. This is the dark side of the game, the story no highlight reel wants to show you. Not when family turns to feud, not when teammates become sworn enemies. Because in the end, it's simple. The ball doesn't always break teams apart. People do.